If you're a baker, you probably followed other people's recipes, whether it's on cookbooks or through YouTube videos, but now you're wondering, how do I do that myself? How do I put my own spin into things? How do I actually develop something from scratch and make it my own recipe with my little signature on it? That's what I'm covering on today's video. In this video, I'm gonna cover 1, what makes a recipe your own? 2, the process of developing your own recipes, which includes research, testing, and mastering. And as the owner of an award-winning vegan bakery, I know a thing or two about developing your own recipes. If we haven't met, hi, I'm Natalia Lima, founder and owner of Curious Cat Bakery. This channel is where I share my tips, hacks, and recipes. And in one of my videos, I actually got this comment right here. Do you have any advice on creating your own vegan recipes from scratch? I use other people's recipes and sometimes add my own twist based on what I like, but I want to sell my goods eventually and I feel like a fraud using someone else's recipes. Crying emoji! So today, let's talk about that. How do you develop your own recipes? So first, let's address that part about feeling like a fraud and talking about what makes a recipe your own. I actually am going to suggest that you check out this video over here from Adam Ragusea. He's one of my favorite YouTubers to follow in the food space. He's actually a journalist and looked into who owns the copyright for a recipe. In terms of patents and owning a recipe, who actually owns the right to it? And it's really fascinating to understand exactly what makes a recipe belong to somebody. Because let's be real here, a cake recipe at the end of the day is a cake recipe. There's going to be different twists to it and different ways of making it, but the basic way of making a sponge for a cake is pretty much the same. You can't really own that. That being said, you can develop your own recipes in terms of taste and ingredients, how you make it. You have to start somewhere. So let's get to that process of developing your own recipe. The first step is going to be research. If you're a Friends fan, you know when Phoebe is teaching Joey how to play the guitar and she goes like, no, you don't touch the guitar yet. You're not going to go in the kitchen. You're not going to touch the oven for this yet. Not yet. The research part is where you're going to do the background research of like what you actually want to create here. Is it a recipe that's in your family that you want to veganize? A recipe that you've done before that you think something is missing? Is something that you tried at a restaurant and you want to recreate? Is there a flavor combination that in your head you just think could really work? When I created that Taylor Swift Evermore cake, this one right here, I'll put the link in the description below if you want to try to make it. I just had this idea in my mind that it would really work to have a lemon, cardamom, and whiskey cake. In my head, I was like, this combination of flavors would really work. And it did. Do you have a combination like that in your head you're like, I think that would really taste really good? That's a good place to start. The next part of the research is just seeing if it's out there already. Pinterest is a great place to look and see if this flavor combination that you have in your head, if somebody's tried it already. Now that's not to say that if nobody's tried it, it's not good, but if you go on Pinterest and you type lemon cardamom cake and you see a bunch of different recipes with that combination, then it's pretty solid to assume that those flavors actually work together and you're on a good track. Doing this research online will also show you how others have done what you're trying to do in your head. They will show you the recipes and the methods that they've used and what you know works. So if everyone is saying to use 3 cups of flour and 2 cups of sugar, you know that putting 8 cups of flour and 1 cup of sugar probably not going to work, right? You don't have to reinvent the wheel. Use the basis of what others have in there. Build upon it. Now that you know what you're making, it's time. It's time to go into the kitchen and start baking. Now, before you start this process, I need you to have the mindset that this is going to be a process. This is going to take several attempts. This is not going to be an overnight thing. You are not going to develop a winning recipe in an afternoon. I mean, maybe you'll strike gold there. Odds are you will not. So just approach that with that mindset and it's going to be a learning experience. We all love those, right? Once you figure out what you're going to do, get to the kitchen and I want you to start by making someone else's recipe. That's your family recipe that you wanted to tweak, something else that you saw online, like make their recipe. This is step 1. Now you have your basis. Now you're going to start making tweaks. And I want you to think Pilates here. If you've done Pilates, you know that it's all about the little tiniest intentional movements that make a change. With this, you're going to do the same. A good recipe has all of its elements for a reason. So think about, why are you changing something and what you want to accomplish with that change? And the answer to that should not just be because that way I can say that it's my own. All the changes you make should be from a place of they're adding to the recipe, they're making it better, not they're just making it different. Do not change 8 things about that recipe in one go, because if one thing goes wrong, you have no way of knowing which of the 8 things it was that made the cake collapse. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna make tweaks one at a time. Make a list of all the things you want to change about it, but act on it one at a time. That way you will know exactly what went wrong, what worked, what didn't work, and the most important part of the testing phase. I cannot express this enough. Take copious notes on everything that you changed in every iteration so that you can be like, okay, on this one I added more cinnamon. That's why it tasted like this. It was good, it was bad. Okay, on this one I added more baking soda. Did it rise a little more? Okay, then yes. Make sure you take notes for every single test that you do so you know what you did right, what you did wrong, what you want to repeat, what you definitely don't want to do again. And like I said, this is not going to be done in an afternoon. So you want to make sure you take those notes, because future you, the one that's going to try again in a week on the next Saturday, is not going to remember what past you did. Make sure you leave notes so that future you can take it from where you left off and continue in this process of testing. And now that you've tested over and over and over and you finally found the winning recipe, the one with all the tweaks that worked out super, super well, it's not glamorous, not rocket science, but it is very important. Type up that recipe. If you don't do it, those little notes you scribbled will get lost. You will not understand your handwriting. Something is gonna happen. Like, just type it up, print it out, put it in your binder with the rest of your recipes, put in the drawer, wherever it is you keep it. But now you have a copy of that final recipe that you developed so that you don't forget it, you don't lose it, and you don't have to start all over from zero again. I hope you liked this video. If you did, please give it a like and subscribe to the channel. It will show YouTube that there's some useful information in here, and it will show it to other bakers in the algorithm. If you're embarking in this journey to develop your own recipe, I suggest that you watch these 2 videos. This one, I go through the process of troubleshooting a recipe when it just keeps flopping over and over again and how you can make it better. And in this video over here, I share a little pep talk that every baker needs to hear so they don't drive themselves insane. I will see you guys here next week. Until then, stay curious.